Hello, welcome back to the sixth tutorial in my Connect 4 in Java series. In the last video, we discussed parameters and return types, and I demonstrated how those were used in my check when condition HV method. The aim of the method was to check for lines of lines of four counters in a row in the horizontal and vertical directions, and I showed you how the method's parameters and the return type were used in order to help achieve that. The next thing we're going to be looking at in this project is checking for win conditions in the diagonal directions. In order to do this, this method predominantly uses while loops, so I thought I could dedicate this tutorial to while loops. To start off with, I'm going to just create a basic while loop just to outline the technique that I'll be showing you, and then I'll bring it back to the project and I'll show you how I've implemented it in this specific scenario. So, there's a couple of things we're going to need. The first thing that you need for a while loop is you need a condition which you test. That condition goes within these brackets. It's a bit like the method parameter list, however it serves a different function. This, if you like, while the loop parameters determine when the loop runs and when it doesn't run. So there are all sorts of tests that you can come up with, but fundamentally, if a test is true, then the loop will execute, and if the test is false, it won't execute. So for example, if I say x is less than 10, every time x is less than 10, the code in this loop will execute. And if there's a point where x isn't less than 10, say x is 10 or above, say it's 12, whatever, the code in this while loop will not execute. So everything inside the curly brackets is the code which will be executed within the loop. So if I just do a basic example of a print statement. So all this does is it prints out a line of text. So I can say, hello world. What's going to happen is every single time, sorry, okay, let me start again. So the program's going to execute everything above, everything above this is going to be done fine, and it's going to get to this while loop. And the first thing it's going to ask is x less than 10? Well, in this specific scenario, x is equal to 0, so the answer will be yes, i.e. true. That means that the code within this loop will be executed. Since that happens, it then goes back up to the top and it asks again, is x less than 10? And it will keep doing that until x is no longer less than 10. The slight problem with this, however, is that since we're not actually doing anything to the value of x, then the loop is just going to carry on forever. And this is an infinite loop. You want to avoid this because in larger projects where, I don't know, say you're rendering graphics, if you render graphics infinitely, you'll end up crashing your computer pretty quick. Luckily, we're just doing a print statement, so the computer can kind of handle it. But I'm pretty sure if I left this running long enough, it would break the computer. So I'm going to have to hit the kill switch. What can we do in order to make sure that the loop does actually finish? Well, we need to do something to the value of x. It can be any number of things, but we need to make sure that whatever we do to x, it will eventually match the condition met here, and hence the loop will terminate. Once this condition is met, the program will continue on. It will carry on down here, and the code in the loop will no longer be able to execute at all. So say I add 1 to x. Ooh. There we go. If I add 1 to x, then this code is going to check the condition in the loop, print out hello world, add 1 to the value, and it's going to check again. It's going to check again, it's going to check again, it's going to check again. See how many times you think that the code is going to run, and I'll run the program and I'll see if you're right. If you thought the answer was 10, then congrats to you, because you got it right. Why was it 10? If we take the first run of the loop, the initial value is 0. Now, 0 is less than 10. Therefore, this condition is true, and the code within the loop is executed. It's going to print out hello world. Then we have said that x is equal to x plus 1. So since x is initially 0, if we then add 1, this value then becomes 1. Obviously, you can't actually write this, but this is what it's logically doing. Once that change is made, when we then test again, this value is then going to be 1. And it's going to repeat the process. This time, 1 and 1 plus 1 is 2. And that process is going to continue right up until the value equals 9. When the value equals 9, it's going to print hello world. However, when you add 9 and 1 together, you get 10. On the next loop round, 10 is not less than 10. And that is why the program fails. So this program works, or sorry, this loop rather, works between when x is 0 all the way to when x is 9. However, that's not inclusive of 10. And if you count up from 0 to 9, including 0, that's 10 times that the loop can execute. After that, it breaks out of this loop body and it will execute, this statement. Whatever happens, it happens to be all the code down here. So that's one instance of using a loop. Now, there are ways that we can change this. So just because the condition is set to less than 10, we can make the loop run less frequently. So if I add 2, this loop is only going to run 5 times. If I add 3, it's going to run less than that. If I add 10, this loop is going to run once and then fail. So, what else can we do? Another part of loops is something known as flags. So a flag is typically a Boolean value. Now, remember at the start when I said that whiles had to be true or false? Boolean value is that exact value, true or false. Binary is 1 or 0. So, flags are used to determine whether something has occurred or not. This is useful because you may not know how many times you're going to have to loop through. Your loop's going to have to run. Say, for example, a user is trying to pick just a random example. Say the user's trying to pick items up to the value of £1,000. No, that's a bad example. What can I think of? Yeah, okay. I've got a good example. Say you are waiting for the user to enter a valid move, and you keep asking them, and you keep asking them for them to make a move, and that's done in a loop. every time they enter a value, and every time they enter an incorrect value, the flag will be set to true, i.e. they entered an incorrect value. Once they enter a correct value, the flag will be set to false, therefore the loop will break because you've actually managed to get a valid move or value, whatever it is, from the user. So I thought next I'll show you how these flags can be used in context. So generally these flags need to be assigned using a condition. So only if something has been achieved can the flag's value be altered. So I'm going to need to do actually quite a lot. So if I add the scanner class, if you can remember from a couple of tutorials ago, I used the scanner class util scanner ? I think. Yeah, cool. So a couple of tutorials ago, we asked for input from the user, and we did that using a scanner class. So I'm going to use the same thing again, just in order to show you how flags work. If none of this syntax is familiar to you, if you watch, I think it's the first tutorial in the series, it's either 1 or 2, I'll put a link for it. I can show you how the scanner class works in more detail. But for now, the general gist of it is the scanner class uses what's called the system in channel. So anything you type in the console window, where I showed you the hello world text, if I then type something onto that screen, that's the system in. So anything that's typed into that can be read by the scanner. And what we can do with that is we can use it to, I don't know, test the user's age. Let me mess about with this a bit more. Okay, obviously age cannot be an integer. It cannot be a string, sorry. I've not prepped for this at all. Okay, so what are we doing? We are asking the user to enter their age. We're then going to wait for them to enter a value. And when they do that, we're then going to run some tests on it. Meanwhile, all of this is being done within a loop. So say, for example, you're waiting for a person of a specific age. You can have this code running, send it to every person, enter an age, enter your age, enter your age. Once someone enters an age that matches your criteria, you can end the loop, but you don't know when that's going to be until they actually enter it. So you don't know how many times you're going to have to run the loop. There are a couple of different ways of doing this, but this is the best example that I could think of without showing you my actual program of using flags. So age is less than 10. You're too young. Okay. If the person is 10 or older, I'm going to set it equals false. I feel like that works. I hope that works. If it doesn't work, I'll tweak it. Okay, so I'm going to run this and then I'll talk you through what's actually going on. Okay, so I showed you that we're going to be asking for input. So this program is currently paused, waiting for me to enter a value. If I enter the value 9, I'm too young. And that's determined by the if statement that we had earlier. If, however, I enter a value 11, the program ends. Okay, so why is that? When I entered 9, this statement was printed. However, nothing happened with x, so x remained true. And since while loops look for true, the code within this, once it got back round to the top of the loop, will then execute again. However, when entered 11, the value is set equal to false. While loops don't like false. When the condition for the while loop is false, the loop breaks and it doesn't execute the code. Hence why it then got to the bottom of the loop. There's no more code, so the program ended. This is an example of a flag. It's a really bad example. There's a few other ways you could do this much more successfully. However, I kind of panicked and just tried to come up with an example on the spot. I'm now going to move over to my main class. I'm going to kind of talk you through how this process works. In fact, I actually know. I'm going to leave that for the next video. The next video, I will discuss how I use while loops and flags in my actual project. But for now, I feel like I've kind of overloaded you guys with a lot of information. So I hope it was useful. And I'll see you for part 2.